Hello, this is Bible Scribe. Today you're going to get a real treat. You're going to hear an interview that I did with a lady named Hilary. Now, this is going to be, to me, it was a huge boost and encouragement, and just to hear the work of God in someone else's life. She's going to tell us a lot of her life story. She's going to talk about her time as a Roman Catholic with her family, and then transitioning into a religious group called The Way International, and how that changed her and how God worked through that. And then a slow transition during the last few years out of the way and into just a period of intense personal study that has helped her understand a lot of new things, a lot of things that are true and she never understood before, about God, about the universe, about herself. And so to me, this interview, especially listening back to it, was just super emotional for me, super powerful. And I really appreciated Hilary coming on to talk about these things. So I hope that you enjoy this segment of interview that I did with Hilary. And I hope that through this interview, you can also see the work of God through someone else's life and maybe apply that to yourself. How has God worked to bring you to where you are in your life? And going forward, how does that translate into you continuing to follow Christ's example of what we should be in this world and taking advantage of the things he did for us? But Hilary has done exactly that. And so I welcome you to listen to this interview and just have as much enjoyment in listening to her story as I did in interviewing her. So God bless and enjoy this interview with Hilary. Well, Hilary, thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to have you on and just have, other voices than my own talk to my audience here on Bible Scribe. And so I'm just excited. Thank you for joining me tonight.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I'll start with let's do this. What's your age range? Like what decade are you in? 60s, 70s?
I
Okay.
you can
Okay.
believe
So
that.
just so everyone knows kind of
I
your generation, because these days generation matters a lot. I don't think when you were young it mattered as much, but these days
no,
it does. So tell me
very
a
odd.
little bit about how you were brought up. Were you brought up inside a religion, or did that start later on? Tell me a little bit about that.
I was raised a staunch Roman Catholic family.
Mm.
They even put me in all girls boarding school in high school for 4 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, heavy. So one of the years I actually had to go to Ireland, for the whole year in a convent with nuns and girls. So yeah,
Awesome. So you don't remember a time when your family wasn't Catholic in
no.
practice. Okay.
In fact, all my girlfriends that I grew up with, they're all still Catholic, and they all think that's, oh, Hilary, it's so sad. So,
So how was that for you? Was that Tell me about your Catholic beliefs. Was it a very personal thing for you, or was it more of a just a practice?
well, when I was little, I always my mom taught me to pray to the saints and to do the rosary and all that stuff, and I did that for a long time. I mean, but then when I got older, I was like, okay, this is weird. I mean, what am I? Oh, and then going to confession. Now bless me, Father, for I have sinned, and you tell them all the stuff you did, and you're trying to remember. You're 7 years old. I bit my sister. I couldn't think
Yeah.
of anything. So just dumb stuff. And then as I got older, I guess I just got kind of tired of all the ritual stuff, and I was kind of seeing through it a little bit.
Did you
So anyway,
did you feel strange? And this is kind of something that I think about. I'm not Catholic, but
yeah.
did you feel like it was strange you had to do all those things with the priest or to the priest,
Yeah.
like confession?
When I was little, I thought it was okay because that was where I was taught. But as I got older, I'm like, what are we doing here? Why are we, what is this? What is all this stuff? And then you go to mass, and there is no the priest doesn't help you with your problems. You're saying the same stuff over and over and over again, and then you leave. And I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Yeah. But I mean, I hung on to it for a while. I mean, when I was looking for other religions and stuff, I hang on to my rosary for a long time until I got into the way, which was, I think I was 27. So.
So you say you were about 27 or so when you started getting involved in another religious group. You called it, that's the Way International.
The
But
way, yeah, national, right?
yeah, so was it, were you must have had a journey between Catholicism and the Way. So what caused you to start really questioning? Is it just you feel like at a certain age it just started to
No.
fall apart? Well, tell me
It,
about that.
a friend of mine got killed in a car accident because he was drinking, I believe. And
Oh,
when I went to work the next day, all the Baptists, this one Baptist girl I was working with, she goes, "Oh, God killed him because he was drinking." And I'm just like, "Are you kidding me?" I could
wow.
not believe that. So that started my journey. I went to the library and I got out every single book on religion I could find, and I brought them all home. And it was just like, there's so many religions. I couldn't believe it. And then, so I was just really looking. I didn't understand. I go, God would never do that. And
Hmm.
then, so then I was getting ready to go to bed one night. My friends called me up and said, "Hey, there's a new band down at the Muddy Spring Saloon. You got to come see them." And the band and the drum, I went. I wasn't gonna go, but I went. And the drummer and the lead and the bass player were both in the Way. Were from the Way.
Hmm.
So I know them, and they took me to my first fellowship, and it was that was 40. I mean, I'm not there. I'm not in the Way anymore. But
Right. Well, that's
yeah.
interesting. So do you feel like that moment when who was it you said passed away in the car wreck?
Oh, one of my friends, well,
Your
some guy that
friend.
I knew that was really super nice, and he just, yeah, and they were just saying, "Oh yeah, God took him." Like he took him. Like, that's not true.
So that statement just threw you because you're like, why would God do something that like that to
Why
my
would God
friend?
do something? Yeah, exactly.
Made
Even
no
though
sense.
Catholic Church doesn't really teach that He's a loving God, I could not believe that God would do that.
So
So
that
that
set you on your
stunned me.
quest to figure it out
Yep,
and kind
yep.
of led you away from Catholicism. And then you met these guys from the Way, huh?
Right. Yep. And they took me to it was called a twig back in the day, because the Way had this thing where they did the tree, the roots, so all the little Bible fellowships were called twigs. Anyway, that's another story. But anyway, so then I go and I heard some guy speak in tongues and and interpret, and I just go, "What?" I couldn't believe it. I go, "What is that?" So anyway, but I stuck with it with the Way for at least over 10 years. But then I realized that I was still in the Way up to about 8 months ago when I started, when all this other stuff happened.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
So tell me about the Way just a little more. So it's not Protestant, is it? I mean,
no, no, I don't know how to explain it. It's a biblical research and teaching place, and this guy named Dr. Werewolf found it in the early 70s. It's kind of like it came off the Jesus Revolution stuff.
right.
It's about the same time, and
Okay.
there was a ton of hippies and people like that there, and it's in Ohio, and I just learned a lot of. It was basically Bible, so I did not learn any Bible in the Roman Catholic Church. Nothing, in fact. So it was nice to know about the Bible and that Jesus Christ died for me, and I'm like, "He did?" So that kind of stuff was really great to know.
So they did teach a gospel similar to what probably you believe now and I believe, which
Oh yeah.
is, Jesus died for our sins, paid that price, and God did something miraculous in that moment in history. And so where do you think the Way was off track? Did they have some things wrong?
Yeah. Well, Dr. Orwell died, and then this other guy got really, really carnal, and I don't know, it just fell apart. I mean, it's still going on today, but it just got super religious, and it wasn't the same anymore. It was just really, everybody was just so disgruntled. It was like, what is going on with this place? But what happened was everybody left. People that left the Way started brand new fellowships with the same doctrine. So I just realized God just showed me there a couple months ago. You're still in the way. Oh my God, I am. All the same stuff I learned in the way, we are still doing now.
Okay, so
So
the way kind of started from an organizational standpoint, kind
yeah,
of fell apart a little bit, and people like your group broke off and
yeah.
started their own fellowships.
That's all over the United States. There's still like a lot of split offs from the way
Okay,
all over the place. Yeah.
very interesting.
So
So what
yes.
about the ways doctrines would you say are different from a good biblical understanding?
Um, let's see. Well, I'm not a Trinitarian. I'm not at all. They taught us right off the bat when I first heard they go that Jesus Christ is not God. He's the Son of God. And I go, oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had no problem with that at all. And I
Hmm.
still to this day will never believe in the Trinity. But I know that made a lot of people mad. But I think the Trinity is one of the most divisive things out there. I mean, people literally flip out when you say you don't think Jesus Christ is God. Don't you think that?
Well, I have found that to be
Ugh,
very true. That
ugh,
it's a stake in the ground type issue where if you go past it, many denominations just, I mean, essentially they don't want to touch you with a 10-foot pole.
exactly.
And so,
Yeah, I
yeah,
just
I have
your,
seen that.
oh, I just listened to your last teaching on that, and where you were almost sound like you were gonna go Trinitarian. You said, and then you started to explain how you really felt, and I was like, oh God, you. Like, oh no, he's a Trinitarian.
No, I try to find I do try to find common ground with Trinitarians. And the
Yeah,
common ground I have is that Jesus was divine, but he was not God. So they would say that they would try to say, "Oh, you're denying Jesus' divinity." And I say, "No, I'm not. He was
where's
divine.
that?
He was
Where's
God's
that?
son."
Divinity's not even the word. I mean, the one I look at every time is John 17, where that guy was pouring his heart out to his father. He's
Yes.
about to go through so much pain, so much suffering for us, and he didn't want to do it, but he
Yeah.
did it, and he's crying to his father, not crying to himself.
Well, and
So
I don't know, just hearing the way you say that to me reminds me of how, it almost makes it more powerful that Christ put his own will aside. And he even says this in
yeah,
the scriptures,
yeah,
put his will aside to do the
yeah.
will of his Father. And all of that was for us. I mean, that to me is amazing, right?
Oh my God, yeah, yeah. And then it must be about my father's business, not my own business.
Right.
It must be about my business. I know there's so many places in the word where you just know, it's just, yeah, yeah. I don't even know how to explain it. But anyway, so yeah, I love learning. That was really good. And the other thing they taught, they taught the dead aren't alive. The dead are not alive. And now I've changed my stance on that because of this whole, like, what is it called? What's it called? That Jesus Christ already came back. It's called something.
Preterism is the word I think you're looking for.
Oh, and so now I'm thinking, and what the sad part is, I walked around for years going, I'm holy, I'm without blame, Jesus Christ died for me, I'm going to heaven, and now I'm like, he already came back. So now I don't even know I don't even know what to think anymore. I mean, I'm blessed, I'm thankful, but I used to be really confident in that belief that I was going to heaven. And Jesus Christ is coming back any day.
Right.
So
Now, do you feel like the belief in that you would at some point go to heaven was tied to his coming back?
yeah, yeah, that he was going to gather us together. Oh, that's the other big thing about the way. The church epistles, Romans to Thessalonians, they basically told us you do not need to read the Bible. You just need to read Romans to Thessalonians
Hmm.
over and over again. It's written to us. And I'm like,
Interesting.
oh, that's what I did. And for years and years and years. And then the other night, in the middle of the night, Father tells me, go read the beginning of every church epistle. And I did. And I was like, oh my God. He goes, it says Romans, to all that be in Rome. Paul saying, to the church of God. To the church of God, which is at Corinth. And I was like, oh my God. I was just like so blown away. Every one of them said that, to all the saints in Christ, which are at Philippi.
Yeah.
And all my life, I thought all these epistles are written to me, and they're not.
Right. And it's shocking, when we realize we've kind of blinded ourselves to it for so long. But the good news is really that they may not have been written to us, but they do affect us. They help us understand, right?
Yeah, it's definitely learning. Like they always say, the Bible's for your learning, but the church epistles are written to you. But now I realize church epistles are not written to me, but we can learn from them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Very good. Very amazing.
Yeah.
There's a lot I can say. I probably, at the end of this, I'll put on some commentary after we're done. But all right. So let's move forward then. And so you were in the way, and you then went to this group, and you were still practicing the way's practices. But then what changed to make you kind of come out of that and decide, I don't want to be a part of this anymore?
In our fellowship, the guy that runs it always told us, reigning in life with Christ. You push that, you're holy, you're sanctified, this, that. And then comes the scam-a-lamagemic. And that's what I call it. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Everyone in our fellowship fell for it.
Oh.
And I'm like, wait a minute, guys, what happened to reigning in Christ? What happened to reigning in life in Christ? They're wearing masks, they're getting scared, they're running home. I'm like, I was so disillusioned when I saw that. I couldn't believe it. I go, wait a minute, we're supposed to be reigning in life. So they're all like freaking out, and my husband and I are like, not at all. And so I got so disillusioned by the whole thing that I remember last summer, I was just sitting and I'd look up to heaven. Jesus Christ did that too. He looked up to heaven and said, Father, I want to know the truth, and I do not want to be deceived. I just kept saying it over and over. And oh darn, it's little by little, I found you. I found that stuff on Facebook, and but he didn't give it to me all at once, just a little at a time, so I could handle it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa. Whoa, I couldn't believe it. I'm older, and if I could do it, but I remember I'm thinking, well, I really wanted to know, and I was like meek or something. I was just like, I gotta know. I just kept praying, and he showed me.
Well, that's great.
So if it happened to me, it could happen to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have heard, I've heard that so many times now. That one, and I even could say the same thing about my life. At the moment you start asking God to show you something, He actually does.
Yeah, knock and it shall be opened. Search and ye shall find.
Exactly.
So yeah, it completely. It just absolutely blew my mind. And now, for the first time in my life, I'm reading the Bible by myself with my father. Nobody's telling me what it says, but then I realize, everybody, the Catholic Church tells you, then the way tells you, and I'm like, I'm reading it, and I've never read it before.
Wow.
And it's like, wow. So
Absolutely great.
So cool. Every day I walk around going, thank you, Father.
Well, that's all that we actually can be responsible for. So, I'm really excited that you found my channel and that has helped you on that journey, but I'm not necessarily that journey for you. Your journey is with you and God, and that'll lead you maybe through some of my stuff and then maybe away from it, and then who knows what you'll find out. But I am glad that I was a part of that, and so I appreciate that for sure.
I listen to many YouTube channels, but little by little, there's like, no thanks. I like that Toad House guy, and you, and I'm down to like 3.
Yeah.
So many, and I just, oh yeah, okay, never mind. So,
there's a lot out there for sure.
but yeah, I'm definitely narrowed it down. So.
Well, that's great. So you started this path of discovery, and I think, so many people listening to this that'll ring a bell. They'll be like, yeah, I'm doing the same thing, So what was the first thing you started to discover about maybe God or Christ that was different and helped your understanding?
Now?
Yeah, after you started this kind of searching for yourself, what was the first few things you discovered that really opened your eyes?
Oh just that. Oh, well, the fact that he already came back was kind of a what, and then that father that I don't know. See, I'm on the stage of like just learning, so I'm a little confused about where I am. But I know that my Father loves me, and I know that Jesus Christ died for me. I mean, I didn't even know if he could even be born again anymore. Like, can he be born again? But I mean, I know he died for me, and that he laid everything at the cross. But does that still apply to me? See, I don't. That's where I get confused now.
Yeah.
Because if he's already left with the saints, then who am I?
Right.
That's what they taught us. You're a saint. You're a holy one. You're going to be judging the angels. I go, okay, all right. And now that whole thing is gone, and I don't really understand. That's where God has to teach me a little bit about that.
Well, what I'll do is at the end of this interview, I will give some information on that in response, but I'll wait till the end so we don't take our time here. But I will respond to some of that if you want me to at the end of this.
Yeah.
And then you'll have it, or at least have my opinion on it. So, okay. So you learned that Jesus came back. That was a huge revelation. What other revelations did you start to learn about as you were discovering things?
So about the fall of Jerusalem. I mean, the whole Bible, it seems to me, is talking about it. Like the whole Old Testament. I'm thinking, we used to think in the old days that, in Revelation they're talking about New York or the Vatican. That's what I thought. It was Jerusalem, and the fall of Jerusalem that's huge.
Yeah.
And that God just cannot stand they all just kept messing up with the idolatry. He just really doesn't like that idolatry stuff. That's what I noticed anyway while I'm reading. And then that Jerusalem must have been one heck of a place. I mean, I think about it like it's such a little place, a little city. But now I'm thinking it was massive.
Yeah, the battle lasted for a long time, and it was a big mess.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, and that whole thing in Matthew 24, when he showed, he told them that.
Right.
I mean, all people that I talk to that are in our Bible fellowship think that's down the road.
That's right.
And I go, and now that I think about it, I go, I don't think a single person in the United States could even handle one day of tribulation. We're so weak. Those guys are probably a lot stronger.
Yeah, as soon as they told us to put masks on, we all did, didn't we?
Yeah, I know. I remember every time I had to go to the store, I go, okay, Father, I'm going in. We're going in together, and I would not wear one. And no one would look at me. No one touched me. No one talked to me.
Yeah.
I was visible.
That's good. It's good that you were strong. I did my best to be that way, too.
Yeah, well, if you have a job, I work at home, so I only have to go to the store once in a while.
Yeah.
I would not do it.
Well, that's awesome. And so you had all these revelations about the actual context of the scriptures of the New Testament and when it was written and who it was written to. That is an amazing thing. It definitely changes your viewpoints. And so I totally get that. Now, what I think that you've alluded to another big thing that you kind of stumbled across that you feel is important, and it has to do with the earth. Do you want to talk about that at all?
That was huge. I mean, I heard about it. Someone mentioned, I go, and I did not laugh at him like so many people laugh at me when I say it. But I just said, I'm not there yet. And then I was sitting, we went to the coast of the beach, and I was sitting outside waiting for my husband to get our food or something. I'm sitting on a bench. It's absolutely beautiful. And I heard Father say, it is flat. And I went, oh my God. And I was like, oh my God. And then I started listening to people like Eric Dubay and those guys. I don't listen to any of those guys anymore. But then when it finally it really hit me, I just cried. I was like, Father, you're right there. You are, and then everything makes sense. The Bible, earth, sun, moon, stars, it's right there, all over the Word. He doesn't talk about all this other stuff. And it's like, and then he's right there, and then the clock in the sky. The moon, the 28 days, and the sun, the 24 hours, and then the stars. And I was just like, I'm gonna cry when it's just so. And when I see that stupid stuff on Facebook, they go, "You are here," and it's a little dot. Have you ever seen that one?
Yes.
They have the sun, and I go, "What a slap in the Father's face!"
Yeah.
I go, "That is not you are here." And then when they try to tell people, they just laugh. They go, "Oh, Hilary." Oh. So, It's frustrating. Which is why I was happy to talk, because I just like unloaded.
No, it's perfect. I mean, and again, that's another thing I've heard from many people. It wasn't that they were in the middle of some video on YouTube and then all of a sudden they were convinced. It was always what you said. Like, I was out in nature, in God's creation, and I was sitting there and it just hit me and struck me. And like you said, you come to tears, you don't know how to react, but you know something, it has been totally hidden from you all this time.
That is one of the biggies. That is so big. Of course, the adversaries are trying to steal that away.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it is just, it's just,
I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah, they're just so thankful to know. And just all I had to do was go, Father, I need to know the truth. He showed me that a few years ago, and then I was so excited. And of course, I tried to tell people, so I just kept it to myself. And my husband is on board, thankfully.
Oh, that's good. That is very good. I don't think I could say the same thing for my spouse.
I know it took a while. I just kept saying little things. Like even now and then, I go, "We're in Shane's little season." He goes, "Yeah, I feel like we are," but then I go, the church epistles aren't written to us. He goes, "How dare you say that?" Okay, so I go, "Okay, back on." So just little bits of truth and then he totally realized about the earth, and it was very cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because that topic is something I have really avoided on my channel up until I think last week's live stream or the week before.
That's when I saw you start to cry. And I go, okay, I gotta get that.
You're like, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's overwhelmed with things.
Yeah, and that happened for me a while back too. But what happened on that stream was that I realized that I hadn't talked to anyone there about it, and it was just really powerful. It was really, God impressed on me that I did the right thing at that moment. So
it's controversial. I mean, you have a channel and you're going to deal with people's junk all the time. I mean,
It's also interesting that like when probably if you watched Dubé's stuff and other things like that, you were looking a few years ago, or at least a couple, and over time that all has changed, and people have gotten banned for talking about certain things, and those types of channels have vanished. It's just really strange out there, so I've been very careful about that on my channel. But
Dubé, I cannot believe he doesn't even believe in God or Jesus Christ.
Right.
So I'm like, what? How in the heck can you not?
Exactly.
Anyway, so I stopped listening to him, but I learned enough.
Well, I appreciate your time, Hilary. I think we've gone over everything I had talked about. I just really want to encourage you, though, in your walk right now, because the reality is a lot of things do apply to us. And again, I will probably have a segment on this after we're done where I talk about the things that are applying to us right now.
Right.
And I do have other videos on that, but I will address that. But I want you to feel confident that two things: Jesus is reigning, and we can be saved the same way that it always has been since Christ came. And the early church talked about that, and everyone since. So it's a very traditional and ancient and correct way to understand Christ's reign, that it is ongoing and we can be a part of it. However, we live in this world right now and we'll be with him someday. And that will not be through a rapture, but it will be by our passing, and then we will go to be with him, just like all the rest who have come before us that are on the journey that Christ put before us. So I hope you feel confident in that, but I will address that a little more too. So
I mean, why would God show me all this stuff if I'm none of his?
Exactly. Why would he be listening to you when you ask to have truth shown to you? But he was.
Fix the boat.
Yeah.
But so thank you so much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And thank you for coming on and giving us your background, your testimony. I think it's important, and I'm just tickled to death that we got a chance to talk. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
Well, is there
that's
anything
wonderful.
else you'd like to say, Hilary, before we finish up?
No, no, I'm fine. Thank you. Probably a million things after you hang up, but this was great. Thank you so much for calling and letting me be interviewed, letting whatever that was, an interview.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
absolutely. And I mean, I think that this is part of your journey as much as anything else, and I consider this part of the kingdom building itself, and I'm excited that you did it. I think this is I want to do more of this on the channel. It's really
And
good, and it helps us realize we're not the only ones out there who are going
they,
through some of these things, right?
especially this group, because they're so, they're not like a bunch of people all together. It's all over the place. And
Yeah.
you don't feel so alone. So
I will say this, and I know you're probably gonna have to go soon. I've been amazed. I feel like God has brought the people that are regulars on my channel. I feel like God has brought them to the channel. Not for
yeah,
me, but for all
yes,
all of our sakes. So it's
yes,
really cool. It's just really cool.
yes. I agree.
Well, you have a
Okay.
great night, Hilary. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
God bless. Bye.
Bye.
So thank you again for enjoying this interview of Hilary's life and her telling us all about the different parts of the journey she has been through and how she's gotten to where she is by the hand of God. I just really appreciate your interest and time here. But one other thing I wanted to discuss briefly again is what Hilary said about feeling unsure now because so much has been changed in her life. So much understanding has come that it can be confusing. So I wanted to at least mention that one more time, that in terms of Christ and our relationship to Christ and to the Father, it's the same as it has been since creation. We are supposed to come to the Father in faith. And of course, understanding who the Father is and having faith in his provision for our eventual resting place with him. We also look back in history, we see what his Son did to procure that place for us in heaven. Now, every Christian from the time of Christ forward has understood that Christ's reign not only extends through this time period we're in, if not to the end of this age, then everlasting. The words in the Bible are actually age to age, as far as how it describes the reign of Christ. But as the book of Hebrews says, it's always been and will always be about your faith in God and who he is. Of course, that trickles down to his Son and how he sent Christ and what Christ did. So if you reject his Son, you will reject in turn the Father. You can't have it both ways. So our job now is to accept what Christ did. Understand that God paved a way with Christ's work for us to be with him again. That actually paved the way even for those before Christ to be with God the Father in heaven. So we can be sure that that is the way it's always been and will always be. We have faith in God through the Son. And so please, if you're watching this and you have questioned so many things now that it shook your faith a little bit, just realize that that one aspect of Christianity has never changed and will never change. And that's the work of the Father through his Son Christ. So I just wanted to encourage you with that before we finish up here. Thank you again for listening to this testimony of Hilary's. And just know that in the future on my channel, we will do more of this. We actually have more in the works right now. And if you are interested in giving your testimony, just like Hilary did, please know that we can do that in any way you feel is appropriate for your journey, for what you have come through with God. And I would be happy to get in touch with you. Please visit my website, bible-scribe.com, and fill out the contact form on that site, and we'll get in touch. And then we can talk about what your journey might look like in an interview on the channel. Because I think it's important for us to see God's work in other people's lives. I think that might be one thing that Christianity has kind of missed over the past few centuries, is the connection between believers and the ability to talk about our own journeys and understand how God works through each of us differently, but also for the benefit of each of us individually. So again, I appreciate Hilary's willingness, her boldness, her courage to come and do this. And I encourage any of you out there who are listening that want to do the same thing to please get in touch with me, and we will try to make that happen. So thank you so much. God bless you in your walk. Have a great day.